Okay. This is a preface to the reading of Luke's Gospel. It's been an extraordinary week for the community of Christ, the triumphant arrival in Jerusalem, a memorable meal with Jesus, then betrayals, his arrest, condemnation. Within 6 days, his crucifixion and death. His mother grieves deeply, while others mourn in secret, and yet others valiantly ready his burial tomb. It is a very dark Saturday. By mid-Sunday, the three Marys visit the tomb. He is gone. But after appearing to them, the women reveal he has risen. Word gets out. The community is shaken, but joyful. Yet many remain afraid or doubtful. Will they also be sought, charged, and killed? Some hide or find another place for respite. 2 of them do. The first is Cleopas, who is an uncle to Jesus, and the second is an unnamed believer. During their 7-mile trek to Emmaus, they bemoan the crushing events, dashed dreams for the one to redeem Israel, but marvel at the astounding news of the empty tomb. A stranger approaches, joining the conversation. He asks why they question Jesus' suffering, and then offers a litany of the work of prophets since Moses, including his own. Now from the Gospel of Luke 28-35, we learn, as they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were open, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The witness of modern wisdom comes from a very astute AI companion who described the common experiences of people on the move, discovering the inherent kindness and goodness in people, challenging preconceived notions about the world, formation of lasting connections through shared experiences, conversations, unique perspectives, enhancing the journey with family and friends, interacting with people from diverse backgrounds to broaden perspectives, challenge biases, foster empathy, gaining a deep understanding of cultures, customs, ways of life, serendipitous encounters, experiencing true connection that can provide a sense of belonging and understanding, reminding you that you are part of something bigger than yourself, finding companionship or co-journers on the road, a salve for loneliness, realizing a shared humanity, revealing the fundamental similarities that unite us as people. And like the Emmaus experience, the people you meet can be just as important as the destination. God is still speaking, and we are still listening. Thanks be to God.
I used to be about 3 inches taller. Really. Thank you so much, Nancy, for the readings. Please join me in a spirit of prayer. Gracious God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. For you, O God, our help and our Redeemer. Amen. In Camino, en route, on the way. Well, I caught myself kind of realizing when I was driving in, I said, I thought en route was English, but no, it's French. I was Spanish, French. We are so used to we have accommodated so much of different languages in our lives that it's just natural. We don't make any differentiation anymore. And I also realized that if I were walking from Portland here, it would be it's 20 miles. It'd take me about 7 hours. Then I calculated, well, let's see, the fellows were on the way to Emmaus from Jerusalem. That was 7 miles. That would take them about, 2.5 miles at a good clip. I'm not sure exactly, we don't know why they make the trek, but to know that it may have been the end of the afternoon or evening by the time they get there. And of course, after hearing and realizing who their co-journer was, it has to be such an exciting impetus to get back and share the good news. And it's true, while one never knows whom we will meet on the journey, any of our journey, it is that initial first step that is essential. And with this respect, I want to introduce you to 4 people, 4 travel guides, as I call them. People or instances of travel with you that I will, and I don't know if any of this is coming up here, but I think you saw a couple of the quotes early on, and I'll repeat them again. St. Augustine says, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." Martin Buber says, "All journeys have secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware." Now, my first person, because I think you saw his picture, is Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain. Because he's the one I have most direct contact with, or direct experience with, and I imagine some of us as well here. Now, I haven't traveled the world with him. I have from my living room for years. I would say almost decades now. And I remember how his series evolved from just a show about food to one about people and cultures, even in such remote places. How the people lived and celebrated and lamented, learning what brought them joy, asking a whole lot of questions that I wouldn't even think about, and more. So much more. And never in our lifetimes, I know of mine for sure, could we circle the globe and chalk up the number of people and the places he went to, places he spent time in, places he was curious about, the people he was curious about. And I know I am so sorry he left the world so early. But for me, it wasn't just about the show. It was watching Bourdain, this toughened, chain-smoking, booze-swigging, potty-mouthed New Englander and celebrated chef. How many of you have caught up with him in some of his programs? So you're kind of familiar with him. And there's a lot of reruns now on the CNN channels of his. I think he has like 3 different series going, and I'm just glued to them because they're so interesting. I know with every gray hair I'm losing a mile, and I'm not going to be traveling to those places anymore. So I really anchor in places, in programs like his, and even Rick Steves. Rick Steves is about places, glorious places. Anthony Bourdain is about people. So for me, is watching through the years how his perceptions shifted, his understandings. And as he cooked and shared meals, even bites here and there with people. And while he said, you learn a lot about someone when you share a meal together. Meals make the society hold the fabric together in lots of ways that were charming and interesting and intoxicating to me. The perfect meal, or the best meals, occurs in a context that has frequently little to do with the food itself. But it was his French-born father who taught his son that the value of a dish is the pleasure it brings you, where you are sitting when you eat it, and who you are eating it with are what really matters. The second person I want to introduce you to is St. Augustine of Hippo. There's no way we would have met him face to face. He lived between 354 and 430 of the Common Era, way, way, way back. And he's the one that wrote, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." He is considered among the most extraordinary theologians of his time, and he was a philosopher of the Berber origins. He was born in northern Africa, Roman North Africa, and he traveled and he ministered and he visited extensively through the Mediterranean region. So his words about travel are really about literacy, knowledge, and understanding of the oikomene, the whole inhabited earth, the ebb and flow of all God's creation, and not just the people. And so do the words of today's witness of modern, the statement of modern witness that Nancy wrote regarding travel. And remember the AI companion. I want to confess that I am a card-carrying A1 resistor. I am deeply, deeply concerned of the incursion of technology in every aspect of our life, that ever-increasing stuff that really confuses me but also worries me, and how it could potentially manipulate more than it can help. But I was curious, and I wondered what a chatbot would say. So that's the first time I made that click on my software to see. And I was astounded. I could not have said it better. I have no idea where it comes from, but it was just a glorious piecing of concepts and words that I certainly could lean into. The fourth group of people I want to mention are the people of the New Blue Church, and I don't know if you got a copy of the blog I wrote about the people of this English-speaking interdenominational church in Mazatlan. Did you see that blog? No? Yeah, okay. They've been meeting down there for about 30 years. Of course, not the same 30 people. People kind of age out, but they come from Canada and the US and Mexico. And they fly in like whatever birds fly south and between November and April. And they are a community. They come back year after year after year. Kind of reminds me of the monarch butterflies from Michoacan, except it's a reverse process. They have become family. And I have to tell you, they are Mennonites and Presbyterians and Methodists and Baptists and Catholics and lapsed this and that and new this and that. But they come together, and there's no stated kind of theology, philosophy. I would think it's it is the theology of our Creator. It is wide. And to the degree, and we could not say this publicly, it was probably the most open and affirming church in Mazatlan. Couples were welcome there. Couples brought other couples. it was an extraordinary church. So I recommend that if you make it down to Mazatlan to see the New Blue Church between November and April. They first started meeting in a congregational church for years that I knew of because I used to work in Mexico prior to coming to Guadalajara. I worked for a binational project with the Mexican Congregational Church and the United Church of Christ, setting up a Center for Theological Studies and Christian Social Action. So I made my way to Mazatlan ever so often and met the pastors there. But 2 years ago, they switched and went to a church that was much in a quieter neighborhood, and there was more accessible parking because with the graying of our hair, we need to be much more in the flatlands and having a place where we can be safe as we maneuver our steps to here and there. But these were people, for me, who really clarified some of the chatbot pieces, discovering the inherent kindness and goodness in people, not only for themselves, but the Mexicans they got to know for years over and over in Mazatlan. The formation of lasting connections through shared experiences, conversations, and unique perspectives. Enhancing the journey with family and friends as people came in to visit them for the holidays. They brought them to the church. They also shared their Mexican friends, their social life there. So people had better sense, not just from a tourist perspective, of the lives of mothers and fathers and children and youth. And some of these folks just became like this, the godparents to some of those children. Realizing a shared humanity, says the bot, revealing the fundamental similarities that unite us as people. Gaining a deeper understanding of cultures and customs and ways of life. Not reappropriating them, but to really honor them and accompany folks as they did this whole plethora of different customs and rituals based in the Catholic Church, based in their Protestant churches, their faith understanding. And it's also to say, and I'll just parenthetically, and I'm going to ask a question real quickly. How many of you were raised in the Congregational or the Evangelical Reformed Church? Okay. How many of you came as part of the uniting of United Church of Christ back in 1957? Yeah. Okay. The majority of you have come from someplace else, and you have found your home here. We continue to be people on the move. Our faith journey is so prismatic. We start somewhere and usually end up somewhere else. I was born into a Roman Catholic family, and bless my grandmother Rosa from Michoacan took me to those incense-scented masses at the Catholic Church. I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to be a nun when I was young. We moved to another place in Southern California, and my mother, when she tried to enroll us into the Catholic schools there, they weren't about to accept little brown kids. So my mom said, that's it, I'm going someplace else. And we happened to run into another family, Latino family, and they were Southern Baptists. So I was raised in a Spanish-speaking Southern Baptist church, which was glorious because I still honor that piece of my life. I left the church because everybody in Southern Cal, or at least in Orange County, starts to work at Disneyland, and you have to work Sundays, right out of high school. So I just kind of drifted away from church and really didn't find my way back. I mean, in college, you get into philosophies and world religious, and you get to hear a little bit more about everybody else. And it isn't until I am a newspaper, or I'm a television reporter by then, that I bump into people from the UCC. And I thought, mercy, what a church. And of course, my entrance to them was all the work that they did with media policy, the extraordinary just work they did with media and communications. And that's how I became part of the UCC. I have no inclination to be a pastor. And I come stumbling around and I'm doing communications work. I get hired off to travel the world with the World Council of Churches and then the Latin American Council of Churches and other things. So I hopscotched understanding the sociology of faith systems, how people live their faith, what were the challenges, how did that fit within socioeconomic, political issues. So I had a real grounding in that. And it isn't until I'm here in Oregon, just trying to settle and see where I'm going to continue, that I get a call. At the age of 59, when most people are thinking of retiring, I start seminary. And I was preparing myself to become a clinical chaplain. So our journeys are not only just what we do on vacations or what we do on the weekends, it's also the spiritual journeys that we're called for. And in fact, when I graduated from PSR in 2011, my faith pilgrimage was to Assisi, which was my grandmother's. St. Francis was my grandmother's favorite saint. And then 2 years ago, I did another faith pilgrimage to Fatima because of the Lady Fatima and her inspiration to me. So when I call myself clearly a UCC person, I'm also an ecumenist and also an interfaith practitioner, which I like to think that's where we all are in our lives as well. So like I can imagine, as I've been sharing, that the process of taking a trip can have a very surprising destination or an event that happens. And I can imagine that some of you have had your own Emmaus moments in your life. And in the spirit of the philosopher Martin Buber, where he says, all journeys have secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware. I'd like for you to turn to each other and describe briefly where you were, whom you met, and the aha of that experience. Take about 1 minute, each of you, just to turn around and share that with you. Find somebody. Yeah. Describe where you were, whom you met, and that aha of the encounter. I think you have become You have started the chronicles of this church, of the Emmaus journeys of each of you. Please remember these, capture what you're sharing, and think about these stories that you want to continue to jot down and even open up a little bit more. And I imagine you'll think of more even when you get home today. I close just a quick with my little Emmaus experience as well. During my ordination, I focused on the Emmaus event. It was important for me, not just what happened with the Last Supper. And I shifted a little bit the words of institution to share that communion. And gratefully, that sanctuary was packed. And every single person walked up and partook of the host. The other thing that happened was there's a song that I included that was sung by Joaquin Lopez. Some of you might know him. He's a well-known Latino actor and singer here in Oregon. He was dressed in white. And it's a song written by Piero Benedetti, who I considered the George Harrison of Latin America. He's in Argentina. He's a musician, composer. And I had discovered the music when I was in Ecuador. And then, being stateside, when writing for Worship Ways in Spanish for the United Church of Christ, it was the online worship resources. I wrote the website. I had no way of knowing. I said, I'll write the website to ask permission to use his work. Well, he emails me back. And he says, oh, you're interested in my song? And I said, yes. It's the only communion song I know where Jesus sings to the people. He sings to them. The title's I'm bread, I am peace, I am more. So Joaquin is dressed in white in front of the communion table. And the words are something like, I am the Atlantic Ocean, I am the wind, I am the mother's milk at her breast for her child, I'm this and this and this. Who changed the words? I'm this and this and this, but who changed the words? Come to me. Come to me. Let everything fall out of your heart so it can be filled with life and life and life. It was just glorious. So I'm hoping one of these days we'll translate it in English, but it's a lovely song. So that was my Emmaus experience, to know that it goes beyond expectations, that we be open to those wonderful moments, those aha moments, as those two men in that little town of Emmaus 2,000 years ago. It's not unlike the breaking of the bread that they experienced among them, who shared the blessing of encuentro, an encounter among themselves, and the revelation of the risen Christ for new life and a new way of being for all. So I end now with my own tiny revelation for each of you, which may have come up in even your conversations, that you don't have to travel far. You don't have to use your passports. You can just go next door. You can walk around the block. You can find a really unexpected and delicious moment of sharing with even just one person. I would even think you might find it with somebody who's not even human. Something that will be part of your journey, en route, in Camino, on the way. So memorable and enduring. And I wish that God bless you. Que Dios les bendiga profundamente. Amén.